We're live.
Okay, great.
We're live. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Hi, my name is Vivian Acquah. I'm the inclusion strategist working at Amplify DEI. I support organizations, teams, managers with effective collaboration when it comes to inclusion, when it comes to conflict management, when it comes to even change management. So, if there is anything that you would like to know regarding effective collaboration or how you can facilitate that, or you have any questions regarding inclusion, know that you can connect with me or ask me questions. But today we are here for a conversation about you are not too much, you are the rule. And the reason why we are having this conversation is Ingrid Tappin. She wrote a book, and I'm probably going to introduce her properly. So, Ingrid Tappin is a leadership strategist, creator of identity intelligence, and also the author of Exceptionals. I think it's behind her on the bookshelf. She
Yeah.
helps organizations recognize identity not as a liability to manage, but as a source of human intelligence. She loves spotting patterns and making uncomfortable conversations more comfortable. Welcome, Ingrid.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Vivian.
Okay, let's start with the first question. So, for anybody, if you have any questions or comments, please share them in the comment section. So I'll make sure, or I'll do my best to pop them up. But we'll start with the first question. So, what's your definition of humanizing the workplace?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question because you can answer that from many perspectives. But my
Mm-hmm.
definition would be designing work around what makes us uniquely human
Mm-hmm.
instead of asking humans to continuously adapt to a system.
Mm-hmm. So,
And
what would that mean for you then? If somebody would ask you this question while you were an employee, how would you
yeah, so
define this?
well, I would define it as I use the example of my daughter's school. She goes to high
Mhm,
school and she's been in several
mhm,
schools. And the first school she went to when she just stopped elementary school, that wasn't her school. She dropped out, and one of the reasons was because the system of school was so rigid. You have to be there
mm,
at a certain time. You
yeah,
have to act a certain way in the class. You have to deliver your homework. I remember her mentor sharing at a parent teacher presentation jokingly, but I didn't really like the joke. There are three things
mhm,
when you go to high school
mhm,
that you can have. That's a lot of sleep,
mm,
a lot of hobbies, uh,
mhm,
uh, and good grades. And in this school, you can only choose two. You can't have all three. So if you want to
okay,
sleep a lot, you cannot, and you want to have good grades, then you cannot do a lot of things outside of school. Well, you understand the
mhm,
diagram. And it also means going to a class and being able to concentrate, listen to the teacher, do your homework while people might be talking. And a very simple example was that she needed noise canceling headphones.
yes, yeah,
And the system said, no, you're not allowed, or the rules said, you're not allowed to have something on your head in class.
mhm,
Doesn't matter what the reason is, we can't make any exceptions, not a hat, not your headphones, etc. Well, as for her, it was really important because these uh, signals from outside, what is it called? She had
she
this
has
sensitivity.
isn't it misophonia also?
No, she just had a sensory input. A lot of sensory
Mhm,
input really drained her.
mhm,
To cancel that out herself cost a lot of energy, so she
yeah,
couldn't do her work. Long story short, for me, making humanizing the workplace is saying, "Okay, who is this human?
yeah,
This
exactly,
human needs not something really special, but doesn't get a lot of energy from lots of sounds,
mhm,
loses energy,
mhm,
needs a quiet space to concentrate, and needs a little bit of a different environment to be her best self.
yeah,
And so instead of adapting to the system, but learning from the person, this could be in the school, but it could also be in the workplace. What what does this say about our system? Maybe we have to change
mhm.
something about it. I think that is humanizing the workplace.
I
And
love
this is
what you
just a
shared.
practical assumption.
I love what you shared about your daughter and how her experience in her school was. But while you were talking, I was also thinking about all the open offices. At least I know now that your daughter will either take precautions when it comes to working in an open office, or she will not work in an open office, because that, from personally for me, that is an energy drainer, especially in the
Mhm.
afternoon when there are too many people. And sometimes people think that when they wear their noise canceling phones, that they can conduct a meeting in an open office whilst other people can hear them, right? So,
Yeah, yeah,
um, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I
And
want to
this is,
go.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah. No, no, no. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say this is like a really simple, practical example, but you can, think of a lot of examples where
Definitely.
you are designing how you collaborate, how you conduct
Mm-hmm.
meetings, how you define what is good or what is not
Mm-hmm.
good. When do you listen to somebody expressing their ideas, and when don't you listen to somebody expressing
Mm-hmm.
those are all things that I feel, um, when we understand what makes us truly human,
Mm-hmm.
sensing, creating trust, relationships, all those things,
Exactly.
then we have a different idea of what it means to design work,
Yeah,
especially now with all technology and AI coming up. So I just wanted to mention the
definitely.
headphones is a practical example, but we can explorate this into so many things.
Definitely. And also the fundamental element of asking those necessary questions about what is it that we need in the workplace, and how can we effectively collaborate better with each other whilst the one person is wearing a headphone. That doesn't mean that they don't want to connect with you, but they have a different
Mhm.
reason for connecting with you or for collaborating with you. Don't just
Mhm.
assume what you don't see or what you don't know, right?
Mm, yeah.
So, what's your favorite song that energizes you? What song did you use to maybe write your book, or came up with the thought of writing the book Exceptionals?
Ooh. Um, I don't recall having a song to energize me to write my book,
Mm-hmm.
but when we kind of prepped this conversation, I did think about the role music plays in wanting me to shift my energy. And
Mm-hmm.
what came up is not necessarily one song, but I go back to 80s. I think about Whitney Houston. I think
Mm.
about, and this is kind of, people laugh about this, Mariah Carey. I
Why?
think about, no,
Why
because
should people laugh about it? I
I
love
get,
these choices.
yeah, yeah, but some people, Mariah Carey. I say, yeah, really,
Yeah,
Vision of Love,
yeah,
or
yeah.
the unplugged MTV
That was really good. That was
album,
really good. Yeah.
Womack and Womack, Teardrops, those
Mm.
kinds of music. And I was thinking,
Yeah.
why do they energize me? Because I think it's a great question. Is because they bring me back to my childhood
Mm.
when we would jump on the bed or on the couch and just
Yeah.
dance and go crazy, let everything go. And when I need to shift my energy, it's often because I want to go back to that
Mm.
feeling of joy, being a kid, not too serious, and feeling free and um, yeah, getting into the flow of your soul, your energy.
Mm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the reason I choose those kinds of songs when I think I have
I
to
can
shift.
immediately see the spark in your eyes when you're thinking about those songs. So no, those are not cheesy options. I would go for them as well,
Yeah,
especially Whitney. Whitney is dearly missed in this
yeah.
world, but her song lives forever. So, and then going back, because you talked about going back to your younger self, and now I have to ask the question, like, what would you say to the younger Ingrid, knowing what you know today?
I would definitely say there is no one way.
Mm.
I used to think, okay, there are certain rules I need to follow.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain path to um, success or reaching your goals, and there are systems in which you have to follow those rules, etc. And as I grew older, I learned people are just making up the rules as they go. um, there is no
Mhm,
so-called
mhm.
way, there is only my way. So I would tell my younger self, your way is a good way.
Yeah.
And follow your trust your gut, follow your
Mm,
instinct. And the whole journey of ups and downs is part of the whole I, the whole path, and
mhm,
that brings you further.
mhm.
There are no rules. Design your own rules. I think I would say that.
Awesome. Awesome. So now we are going to dig into exceptional. So you wrote a book, and let's start with your own story. What experiences made you realize that identity could be a leadership strength instead of something that you should hide?
Well, I don't recall ever thinking that I had to hide my identity, but I
Mhm,
learned from a very early age that rooms have rules. So when I would walk into a room,
mhm.
I quickly noticed that, okay, there are rules as to who has power here, who has
Yeah.
influence, who decides what good looks like, who decides
Mhm,
what is valuable, who decides what gets rewarded and not. And that identity played a big part in that.
mhm,
So that social radar that I kind of developed early on, because I have a very mixed background culturally, belonging to many worlds. You know, I was born in Barbados. I lived in America until we were 5. My mom is from Suriname, very mixed heritage. My father from Barbados, moving to the Netherlands. People not really knowing where to box you in,
mhm,
and depending on which accent people heard, they would box you in there. Or if I would say I was born in Barbados and then that time nobody knew that island, they would say, okay, I don't
mhm,
know who you are. But if I would say my mom is from Suriname, they would say, oh, now I know where you're from. You're from that,
mhm,
part. And
mhm,
having to learning how to navigate that, and seeing how other people would react and what I was able to accomplish and not,
mhm,
etc., became kind of an instinct. And as I grew older, I um, also realized, okay, I can adapt. I can decide what to show and not to show. But when I am uh, choosing this because of something I want and not necessarily because I think I cannot accomplish something because I would share something too early or whatever, the more authentic I dare to be, the
mhm,
more I noticed that other people would also share
mhm,
things about themselves. And it became kind of a leadership capability, right? Being able to translate between worlds, not only translate myself, but also translate between people that I knew were not totally understanding each other 100%. Being very open also at a certain point about my sexual orientation and my blended family, giving other people kind of the safety that they needed to say, oh, I can also share this, and therefore also be more at ease and share other things that had to do with work, not only with their identity. Role modeling
mhm.
to others that you do not have to play a certain role, be a certain person if you want to reach certain things in your professional life. So during those, it became from instinct to more consciously, and using it consciously, this identity intelligence, as I call it, to um, to collaborate better, innovate better,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
make room for different perspectives.
Yeah. So what I get from what you are sharing right now is by role modeling, showing who you are, you're creating a pathway for other people to learn from that, but also to use that to their own advantage so that they can share whatever it is that they want to share so that they can open up and connect with other people as well and disclose elements of the identity that maybe if you didn't show, that they would not have shared. So that is also something that I do see as a leadership skill. So oftentimes leaders are afraid to disclose this part or certain parts of themselves, and um, it keeps them from being authentic, in my opinion. I'm only sharing my opinion. It keeps them from being authentic, and also it keeps them from creating a psychological safe space, because if you show up in a certain way, you are also allowing other people to show up in a certain way as well.
Yeah, and I also think that if you show up in a certain way and people do not uh, immediately understand what that way is, you're
Mm-hmm.
also opening up the possibility for curiosity
Exactly.
and for
Exactly.
learning. And we talk a lot about being vulnerable as a leader,
Mm-hmm.
and I always
Mm-hmm.
think there is vulnerability in itself is not necessarily a leadership skill,
Mm-hmm.
especially knowing where you stand as a leader. I mean, it's a lot
Mm-hmm.
easier to be the CEO and be vulnerable about something because the risks for you are less. They're not,
Different. Yeah.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
different. But
Yeah.
if you as a leader are aware that role modeling vulnerability, but also sharing what safety and protection there is within your organization, if
Mm-hmm.
you, as let's say a junior person, would share that same type of vulnerability, that I
Yeah.
think is the leadership skill.
Yeah.
Being aware that the risks are not equally distributed when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability. And the extra layer is communicating that it is seen as something that the organization is going to use as intelligence
Yeah.
or as something to learn from or whatever it is.
So going back to your book, because one of the things that you describe is personal identity, seeing it as an asset and not as a
Mhm.
liability. So for someone who has spent years of downplaying who they are, where can they shift that perspective?
Um, I think so. The reason I wrote the book was to give
Mm-hmm.
language to identity, and the language to how our lived experience,
Mm-hmm.
so being who we are and navigating through the world, develops leadership capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And um, shifting from talking about identity only in the context of identity traits, but
Yeah.
really into knowing who you are, knowing how the world sees you, understanding where others come from, and what kind of value that can bring in the context of work. And if you have always downplayed yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but you ask yourself the question, what has being me, um, whatever I had to become good at because of
Mm-hmm.
what I experienced through my
Yeah.
identity. And there's a pattern in that. That's what
Mm-hmm.
identity is about. And when you start recognizing that pattern, it becomes a lot easier to communicate it to others. And
Yeah.
it becomes a lot easier to be curious about others and their leadership capacity developed through their lived experience. And the shift is becomes less of a, ooh, I have to watch out because can we talk about race here? Or can we talk about neurodiversity here? Or can we talk about gender here? No, can we talk about what I have learned
Mm-hmm.
because of who I am, navigating systems that were designed on a very narrow template of what it means to be human?
True. I agree. And it also immediately reminds me of knowing who you are also helps you to connect with other people, but also it sets a foundation. If you don't know who you are and you become this chameleon where you adapt or where you change yourself and not become true to yourself, eventually, internally, there will be friction. You will not be you. You'll be a copy paste of somebody else. And there is this quote like, be yourself, everyone else is taken, right? So
Yeah,
be yourself because everybody else is taken. And it also reminded me of something that is common, not only for people with a cultural different background, but also for those who are raised in a family where humbleness, you cannot talk about yourself or brag about yourself, even with the work that I do in the beginning, I felt conflicted. I'm born and raised in the Netherlands, but I have Ghanaian roots, and being humble is part of the Ghanaian side, but being born and raised in the Netherlands, you have to,
Mhm.
you have to toot your own horns from time to time, and it can offer a conflict, definitely towards women in the workplace where they don't share what they are doing. If you look on your LinkedIn platform, how many of the people that are on your feed are women, and how many of the
Mhm.
people are on your feed are men who are talking about what they are going through and what lessons that they have to learn or share with other people.
Well, I think my feed is very biased, Vivian. I have all kinds of people coming. I wouldn't say I would have. I don't know what what everybody's algorithm is, but
Mhm.
I think that a lot of people who have developed what I call the underdog identity. So that's the
Mhm.
origin story of
Yeah.
yeah, doe maar normaal, dan doe je al gek
Yeah.
genoeg. I think a lot
Yeah.
of English speaking people living in the Netherlands knows what
We
that
have a Dutch
means.
saying. We have a
Yeah,
Dutch saying that says that you have to act normal because that is already crazy enough. So
easy
that's what
enough.
Ingrid was
Yeah.
sharing. Yeah.
And if you have this, you've developed this origin story of being underestimated or not
Mhm.
being uh, stimulated to say, hey, this is what I have, this is the value that
Yeah.
I can bring. At a certain point, you start to showcase your value in very different
Mhm.
ways,
Yeah.
unexpected ways,
Yeah.
and not always taken very seriously. But when
Mhm.
you start realizing that, and that's where this consciousness of your identity, and you say, hey, I've always been the underdog, and I've tried
Mhm.
to, you know, prove my value in ways that are different because I see different. I look in different places. I have to find
Mhm.
solutions in a different way. And you recognize that what you actually have is possibility intelligence,
Yeah.
that is what you've developed because of who you are. You are really great at creating trust with others. You really have this strong inner compass of kind of intuition, knowing what might be different and not always having the words, but no, hey, this is the direction that we should be going. And you start to trust that,
Mhm.
and you have the language to share to people, hey, wait a second, I know this might be unconventional, but
Mhm.
because of who I am, and there's a pattern here, I have possibility intelligence, so
Yeah.
trust my intuition here a little bit. And when
Yeah.
you have that interaction, you also become less um you become less this underdog, and you become
Mhm.
this intuitive fixer, that people are like, hey, we don't know how to do this, and then they come to Vivian because Vivian, she has this in her. And
Yeah.
the same is when you have multicultural background and belonging to many worlds, and but not fully to one.
Mhm.
This patchwork identity, and you know how to adapt, and then you suddenly realize, hey, but there's an intelligence in this
Definitely.
translating between people. Not everybody is capable of doing that. I
Yeah.
understand her, I understand him, I understand them. They don't understand each other. I see where this could be
Yeah.
going, and that we might be able to create something new or innovative, or create certain kind of peace or belonging. And that's where this consciousness of how your lived experience has become a capacity that you can use on purpose.
Yeah. I can see what your human intelligence framework can be an add-on to cultural intelligence, because with cultural intelligence you don't have to show any vulnerability, but you can find out, for instance, I can share one part of myself. I grew up in the Netherlands, Ghanaian roots. You would think that because of my Ghanaian roots that I'm more community minded, or you would also assume that maybe because I grew up in the Netherlands that I would be more solo minded. I'm in the middle. I can
Mm-hmm.
levitate between,
Never.
different worlds. And I choose to do this consciously as well. But if you don't know that of your colleague, where your
Hmm.
colleague might be a solo person or the other person wants to do everything with kumbaya. And in a community, if you don't know that of yourself and also don't know that of colleagues, and there can be friction, right? But also knowing yourself and adding your element of intelligence with it can enrich a team. It can enrich an individual as well.
Yeah. And I would want to add another layer to that.
Mm-hmm.
If you can design the way that your team works
Mm.
in a way that it unlocks all these
Yeah.
identity intelligences,
Yeah.
it becomes part of the culture. So there's I agree with you that identity intelligence is another layer on cultural intelligence.
Yeah.
And where I hope to go a step further is helping teams and organizations design cultures where you can not only um, see that there is difference, but are
Mm-hmm. But
also
also tap
able to
into,
leverage, yeah, to
yeah,
tap
yeah,
into
tap
the
into,
intelligence of
yeah,
that difference.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I
Mhm.
agree. I agree. I see a question from my line, or it's a comment and a question, my line. It's too long, but I'll read it anyway. I really appreciate how you distinguish between different kinds of identity intelligence. It's a great way to acknowledge people. I also appreciate that as well. And what is the biggest shift you have seen in a person from being seen who they are?
The biggest shift I've seen in people since I've written the book, because
Mm-hmm.
that's when I actually uh, have people around me who I do not know coming to
Mm-hmm.
me and say, hey, now I recognize something that resonates with
Mm-hmm.
me. And you've given words to something that I always knew intuitively, but never could, put my finger on it. Is that they feel empowered to,
Mm-hmm.
to show more of who they are,
Yeah.
trust, have more trust in the capabilities that they know they have. But
Mm-hmm.
language matters, right? When you suddenly have a word, you're like, oh, but now I can use it and trust it because it's something that is real.
Yeah.
And also people deciding to um, build new spaces,
Mm.
new
Yeah.
things, because they feel that there's more room to bring something to the table or change something. Those
Yeah.
are the three biggest shifts I've seen. So empowerment, trust, and change agency.
I would say also it would do a number on your confidence, right? Because knowing yourself and
Yeah,
knowing how you lead and how you walk and how you enter certain spaces or create your own communities can give you a boost or can amplify you from within as well.
yeah, yeah. And develop a certain type of courage to do things that you
Mm-hmm.
might have not felt empowered enough or trusted yourself enough or feel that you could take that space. Um, yeah,
Okay.
great question.
One of the things that I agree. I mean, I agree with a lot of the book, but one of the highlights that I wanted to talk to you about is storytelling. We don't
Hmm.
do enough storytelling for ourselves. I grew up in a community where storytelling was one of the things that we share, like the Anansi story, but also stories from the past. So, storytelling is throughout your book, you talk about storytelling. What makes a
Hmm.
personal story land as leadership, and when is it oversharing?
Yeah, I think that when your story serves a purpose beyond yourself,
Mm-hmm.
it is leadership.
Yeah.
So you can tell a story to about what you have experienced in life, but because you need to get something off of your chest, right? Or you want somebody to like you or feel sorry for you or whatever it is, but it's about you. And in a lot of contexts, that's fine. If
Mm-hmm.
you're talking to your best friend or your parents, or um, that's a space where you can share stories for that reason. But I think in the context of work, leadership, leading a team, building trust, your story should be there because your intention is to create either connection,
Mm-hmm.
um, movement, meaning, beyond yourself. And I think
Yeah.
that the intention is super important
Yeah.
um, when it comes to storytelling in the context of leadership.
Yeah. And also make your intention known, because sometimes people assume that other people will know their intention. If you don't speak it out, then you let other people fill in the blanks. And that's where things go left or things go wrong or things go right.
Hmm.
So make sure that people know your intention, where it's coming from, and be open about it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think, and sometimes you might think that your intention is clear. So it's not always
Mm-hmm.
very easy to
True.
do that. I know that my I have a habit of when I introduce myself into a new team, I
Mm-hmm.
share, it's like a really mini story, but I share, well, my name is Ingrid. Um, I live in Haarlem with my
Mm-hmm.
wife and our two teenage daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And this information, you share something like in a storytelling way, is a way for me to immediately give people the backstory of my identity.
Exactly.
And my mom said, "But why do you have to share that immediately that you are married to a woman?" I mean, it's
I
okay.
can imagine. I can imagine.
And he says, "Why do you have to share that right
Yeah.
away?" And I said, "Mom, because I am often in a position that
Mm-hmm.
people are looking up to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I want everybody, whatever their personal story is that they might think that they need to hold back, by doing
Yeah.
that, they do not, they see, oh, if she's doing that, I do not have to hold back
Yeah.
this or this part because she already shared this about herself. And I do not share the intention when I share this, but I have an
Mm-hmm.
intention. And
Yeah.
somebody might think, why is she sharing that she's married to a woman? Why does she have to, why does that have to be the first thing she says? Well, this is the reason. And when I got an email years ago from somebody who had sat in one of those meetings when I was working for a big
Mm-hmm.
corporate, she's emailed me years later. She said, when you did that, I
Mm-hmm.
thought to myself, wow, I can be a woman of color, I can be a, a lesbian, and I can become a senior manager in an organization. And
Mm-hmm.
she had not come out to anybody in her environment yet. And she said that made such a big impact on me that I started making changes in my life, etc.
Yeah.
Because you gave me that openness, and I didn't know that that was going to happen, of course, but that was
Mm-hmm.
that intention matters.
Yeah. Definitely. I also see Marjolein. Thank you, Marjolein, for the love. So love that. Empowerment, trust, and change agency. Vivian, great addition. Courage in how you show up. And then the other question that I have is a question that I have for leaders, or the thing that
Mhm.
you have for leaders. So, what is the question leaders are most afraid to ask out loud? And what would be your answer?
I think currently leaders are afraid to ask, are we inviting difference to the room because we
Mm,
want to be
yes.
inclusive? Or are we
Mm-hmm.
inviting different perspectives to the room because we actually want to change and redesign the room? Meaning that who decides, who has influence? Okay. It's a live emoticon, a live
Yes.
GIF.
It's my way of applauding.
Thank you, Vivian. But yeah, I think we're on the same line there. I think that
Hmm.
leaders are afraid of asking that question,
Yeah. Yeah. Why?
and I
Can I
understand
ask
why.
you? Yeah. Can you share the why and how you would answer that question?
I think because even though 97% of us have an identity that is not designed
A
according
standard.
to this, yeah, according to this
Yeah.
narrow standard. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of us,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also
Yeah.
including a lot of people that we are saying white, straight, middle-aged men,
Yeah.
but that is
Yeah.
those are only three labels. These people also have complex identities. We all have
Yes.
complex identities. We all have
Yeah.
lived experiences, families,
Yeah.
mothers, etc. So I
Mm-hmm.
would say 97% of us are walking daily into rooms that were not designed with us as people, as
Mm-hmm.
humans in mind.
Yeah.
But we are so used to this system and this construct and to the rules and adapting to it and hiding parts of ourselves because we think that is so-called professional, and seeing that, well, that's the only way to,
Mm-hmm.
climb the ladder to success and reach my goals. That saying, I dare to show a part of me.
Mm-hmm.
I dare to say that that is also valuable and that that might be a way to tap into new markets,
Yeah.
to come up with an innovative solution, to redesign
Keep
something that, huh?
to
Yeah,
even keep your team or prevent turnover from
yeah, to
happening,
learn of
right?
all
That's
those
a
things.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that even though we all feel like sometimes we are, pushed into this lane of, okay, let's just follow what we have been told through these years that we need to follow,
Mm. Yeah.
that it means things are going to shift, power is
Yeah.
going to shift,
Yeah.
influence is going to shift, and we, especially I think in the Western world, have been um, raised with this idea of scarcity. So if
Mm-hmm.
I have to move, then there's no
Yeah.
place for me, and we believe that there is only one pie and we have to divide that pie. While as if we realize that the pie can only become bigger, and broader, we might be able to create different pies and multiple pies, etc. It's not that scary, but we still need to transition into that new, I would say, working culture mindset.
Yes, and I agree with the working culture mindset, but also not to forget we are dealing with, or some companies or some departments are dealing with 5 to 6 generations that are working at the same time. Everybody has their own biases. That's also one of the reasons why I wrote last Saturday, I wrote a birthday post about 8 bias, about being too old or being too young,
Hmm.
because it's still an actual topic nowadays. It's still an actual topic where we are writing people off because of their age, or we are writing them off because they are too young or too old. So also
Hmm.
bring that element into your day of working or how you navigate the workplace as a leader as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a really great example. If we think about younger people entering the workforce with new
Mm-hmm.
ideas about work,
Exactly.
we also have to stay curious because we feel, no, but this is how you are supposed to
Mm-hmm.
develop yourself. This is how you're supposed to, uh, treat your boss, or how, all
Mm-hmm.
these things. And I would say myself too, like, oh, now you cannot think that you can become a manager right away. You first have to do
Mm-hmm.
X, Y, Z. That's how we
Yeah.
were brought up.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to stay curious and say, okay, but what are they
Yeah.
bringing, and how
Yeah.
could we merge the best of both worlds, and how might we want to change the way that we look at progression, and
Definitely.
have a different perspective. So yeah.
Yeah. Coming to the last question, unfortunately, but I loved our conversation so far. What is
Likewise.
your wish for 2030 when it comes to humanizing the workplace and being exceptional in the workplace?
Great question. Well, my wish, and I think that sums up our conversation a bit, would be
Mm-hmm.
to stop counting difference
Mm,
and to start tapping into the intelligence that difference has in it.
I get you, and I
I think
understand
that
you.
and not everybody might agree with me, but I think that we have been
Mm-hmm.
focused too much on counting the different identity traits that we have in a room.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but having difference in the room doesn't automatically make that the room gets better or smarter, if
Mm-hmm.
difference has to adapt to sameness.
Yeah. I get
So
you.
my wish is that we, as people working and responsible for designing how we work, who works with who, how we hire, how we promote, how we innovate, how we test, how we experiment, all those things are part of work. That we who are responsible for those things do not just think, okay, let's get another woman, or let's get another person of color, or let's get a neurodivergent person, but really think, okay, what is this person bringing into the room because of who they are and their lived experience? And we might not look alike at all, but bring the same
Mm-hmm.
intelligence into the room that the room is missing.
Yeah.
And then designing work in a way that it leverages that. Because this way, I think we will also be able to say goodbye to this polarization of we versus
Them
um,
or us
them,
versus them. Yeah.
us versus them, but it becomes a collective responsibility and
True.
it all becomes we. That's my wish.
I get you, and I understand where you're coming from, but then again, I also while you were talking, I also was thinking like, okay, but what's your perspective on quotas then? Because it seems like you want quotas to end, or did I capture
No,
your
I'm not
answer
saying,
wrong?
no, it's not. I would, my wish is that we
Yeah.
focus more on, so if we have quotas and we say we want
Yeah.
an X amount of this identity trait and that identity
Mm-hmm.
trait, we have been doing that for a while. That does not necessarily mean that we
Yeah.
are
True.
tapping into what these people can
Yeah.
bring.
Yeah.
So if we develop the language as to what are you actually bringing because of who you are, what are we
Mm-hmm.
missing, and is the room designed to see what intelligence you are bringing? I
Mm-hmm.
want to make that shift.
Yeah. So
So
more on skill management, managing the skills of people so that they can leverage what they bring in the workplace then.
yeah, and understanding more, the understanding where we are coming from, what we are bringing um, as human beings, and
Yeah.
not just looking at the way I like to sit on a toilet or the color of my skin.
TMI, TMI.
No, some people like to sit, some people like to stand. I don't really think that that's the most important thing
Some
of
people
when
are
somebody comes
visual
in.
people. I
Yeah.
immediately saw that. I see also a comment from Mary Jane. Mary Jane is sharing ageism is still one of the least recognized biases we have, not only in the workplace, but also in life general. Thank you, Mary Jane, for adding that. And thank you also, Ingrid, for sharing, for answering the questions that I have, and for sharing your perspective on exceptionals. For everybody who hasn't had the book, look behind her. It's on the shelf. It's in English,
Yes.
and read it and enjoy it and pass it on to somebody else so that you can learn to collaborate better with yourself, but also with other people as well. So thank you, Ingrid.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you for a
Yeah.
great conversation.
Until the next time, everybody. Bye.